Welcome back to the Social Selling Podcast, and we are going to dig into, I say the negatives. We're going to talk about the three biggest social selling fails today. What are the traps? What are the things that lots of salespeople and LinkedIn users fall into when trying to leverage LinkedIn and social selling as the powerful tool that it is? What are the fails? What are the traps to look out for? How can you get past them? And how can you, in essence, use them to your advantage to compete against everyone else that you're fighting for business for? So let's dig in. The first, and probably one of the biggest fails that people can make when it comes to LinkedIn and social selling, it's your ego. It's everyone's ego. And trust me, I speak from experience. When you start getting those likes, those comments, those followers, it's going to feel good. And that's a trap. And the fail that comes from that is people sometimes, it can go to your head. People sometimes think maybe they're a bit bigger for their boots, and it's a very dangerous path to go down, especially in business and especially in sales. Now, if we think about influencer marketing, we see this a lot. We see people become influencers on lots of different social networks, which is fine. It's building an audience and generating lots of likes and comments and engagement isn't easy. Not everyone can do it. So that is an achievement. I certainly don't want to take anything away from the achievement of building an audience. However, influence and converting that audience is a very different thing. And that's the solution to this. This is the cure to the fail, is the conversion, the real, the tangible. That's where humbleness comes from this. And that's something I've always lived by as my audience has grown over the years. For me, it's always been about, well, followers are great, likes and comments and engagement metrics are great, but what's coming out the other side of it? Am I actually able to drive that audience to buy something that I'm suggesting or from a company that I'm working with? That's the real measure of success. And when we talk about social selling, and we did this in one of the previous episodes around measuring social selling, it's all about the tangibles. How much sales and revenue and leads are you generating from social? And if you can balance that out, it will help. Ego's not a bad thing. It's good to be confident and passionate about what you do. But it's very important to realize that however many followers you have, there'll be someone out there who has more. And however many likes and comments you're getting, there'll be people that are getting more. And one of my biggest tips for this, for you and for your teams, and especially if you're a manager, is to keep setting bigger goals. So if you've reached 10,000 followers and you've got the most followers in your team and company, well, that's great. How are we going to get to 20,000? And when you get there, how are we going to get to 50,000? And you keep goal setting. It's no different to being successful in your job, in your career, in sales. We keep looking beyond that for the next thing to achieve. So ego is a big fail when it comes to LinkedIn. And I see a lot of people fall into the trap where you can see after a few months, they get some traction and then they start to act in a way that perhaps doesn't make them look good or professional, or someone who actually cares about their audience and their customers. And that's, one of the most important factors. The next biggest fail, and this is a trap that I would say 99% of people fall into when it comes to LinkedIn and social selling, is consistency. And the funniest thing about this is, if we talk back to influence as well, I've seen influencers fall into this trap to make this fail where they stop being consistent. I've seen influencers who spend maybe a year building their personal brands, growing big audiences, getting engagement of thousands of likes on every single post, which is incredible. And then they take a 1 to 2 month break. And when they come back, they struggle to get 20 likes on a post. Their audience hasn't shrunk. Your audience is very rarely going to shrink significantly, but your engagement will. And your brand and position within the industry will drop significantly. Now, I'm not here to try and judge people that take breaks. There could be very, very real reasons for those breaks to happen. And of course, something bad has happened, and that's terrible, and certainly something I would sympathize with massively. But what we have to think about is, in some of those circumstances, are there things you could do to maybe keep consistent? Like, for example, scheduling. So when I go on holiday, I'll take a 2-week holiday once a year. I don't just disappear from LinkedIn for 2 weeks, because that could have a negative impact on my consistency and the impact my brand and content has to me and my businesses. So I schedule it in advance. So I have content going out. I don't touch LinkedIn for a week, 2 weeks, however long I'm away for, but it's still working for me. I'm still consistent. Now, for some people, it might just be that there's a business distraction, you get a new job. There could be any number of reasons. But what I would always recommend is try and keep that consistency going. As someone who's been consistent on LinkedIn for just over 10 years now, it's not easy keeping consistent. It's not easy always being present and active and creative, but it has a compounding effect. It builds and builds and builds and builds. So consistency is a real key thing. And stopping with your consistency can have a very big impact and undo a lot of the hard work you might have done before. So if you are investing in LinkedIn and building your brand, try and keep that consistency going so it continues to build and build and grow and grow. Try not to take too big of breaks. And if you're going to take some breaks, whether it's a weekend or a couple of weeks or longer, try and schedule content, even if it's 2 posts a week. Just try to keep some level of consistency during whatever break you need. So then when you come back, you can start to pick it back up, but at least you're not disappearing. Because if you disappear completely, it becomes very hard to pick it up again. Now, my third big fail that people fall into, and it's attached a little bit to the ego piece, it's vanity metrics. And I see this a lot of the time. And again, this is kind of ego fueled, but a lot of people become a bit too focused on the vanity metrics, the followers, the likes, the comments. And that's why there are things like pods on LinkedIn, groups of people that literally just like and comment on each other's posts so they get tons of likes. But it's a very limiting strategy to have. And that focus on vanity metrics, unless you've won the lottery and you don't need any money or business, and that's all you want. If that's what you want, fine. Who am I to judge? But I would say 99.9% of the people using LinkedIn and trying to use social selling are looking for business. And if you focus too much on the vanity metrics, you'll probably lose sight of what's most important in this, which is tangible business. And if we look at the way you would go about getting that engagement, the likes, the comments, the followers, a lot of that can come through maybe more bland and basic forms of content. And look, we see this, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it works, but there are lots of influencers and LinkedIn experts and gurus out there that their strategy on LinkedIn tends to be a picture of themselves with some really generic motivational story or story of a challenge they've overcome, or just there is a format right there, and that's all they do. Now that might get you lots of likes and comments and build your personal brand, but does it give anyone confidence to buy anything from you unless it's a LinkedIn training related product? No. If you want to sell a product or service, you have to give value and show people that you are trustworthy and credible in that particular industry. So if you're selling financial services, for example, sharing selfies and motivational stories isn't really going to help you sell financial services. You still need to give value to your target customers and audience. So if you were focused purely on the vanity metrics, it would lead you away from actually doing the right things needed to generate sales, to actually socially sell. So we need to focus on the other side, the more tangibles, the total revenue, the sales, the business opportunities, the meetings, the conversations. That's the real focus. The vanity metrics are always going to be a part of it. We want to grow an audience. We want to drive our engagement up, because if it's the right audience and we're giving them the right content that's driving engagement, then it's going to lead to the right results that we want. So always keep those three things in mind. Keep a check and control of your ego, and it's okay to feel good if if you go viral, if you get high engagement on your posts, if your audience is growing healthily, if you're building a personal brand. That's amazing. Be proud, get rewarded for that. Reward your teams if they're able to achieve those things, because those are incredible. But always keep looking ahead. There is no mountain when it comes to LinkedIn. You could get to 1 million followers. There are going to be people with more than that. So keep focused, keep driving, and always have that core value of just wanting to help your audience. As long as that's all you want to do, then you'll steer in the right track when it comes to social selling. So try and keep that ego in check. Keep consistent. I know it's not always easy, but try and keep some level of consistency. If you're going to need to take a bit of a break, try and schedule some content in advance during that break, just to keep your brand at least maintaining. Even if the growth slows down, at least you can maintain. So when you come back, it's there for you. Don't lose the work you've worked hard for. And then make sure you're measuring the right metrics not just the vanity metrics, not just the likes, the comments, the followers, but the tangibles that are coming the other side of it. How much revenue are you generating? How many new sales, new customers, new meetings, new business opportunities? That approach will keep you a lot more balanced. And trust me, if you can keep a check of those three common fails, it's going to steer you on a much better path with LinkedIn. And more importantly, with all of this, it will help you build a long-term LinkedIn and social selling strategy. All those three fails, what I see are essentially very short-sighted and short-term strategies. So if you do let your ego take control, if you focus on the vanity metrics and you lack in consistency, maybe you sprint and you do 3 to 6 months of being really active and then you take a break, you might get some short-term results, but you're going to struggle with the long-term. The long-term game, it's a lot more hard work. You need to be consistently consistent. You need to have good control of your ego and really focus on both the vanity metrics and the tangibles. But trust me, as again, someone who's done this for a long time now, it's worth it. If you can keep going, again, it will build and build and build. So avoid those three fails. Keep checking your ego. Make sure you keep with the consistency. And yes, vanity metrics are fine, but really focus on the real tangible business you're winning from LinkedIn and that you're driving for. Those three things will keep you on the straight and narrow and hopefully help you and your teams steer towards greater social selling success. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.